Hello, Mr. Hardy here, and in this video I would like to teach you about Act 3, Scene 5 of Macbeth by Shakespeare. As per usual, you need to be familiar with this scene. Maybe you've read it, listened to it, watched it, or studied it previously, and you're using this video for revision purposes or to gain a deeper understanding of the text. Again, as per usual, I'll start by summarising the plot. We'll explore the key characters, themes, contexts, quotes and techniques, and I'll leave you with a couple of tasks you can complete at the end of the video. So what happens in Act 3, Scene 5 of Macbeth? Well, this is a fairly short scene, and it's set in a deserted place. And in this scene, there are four characters. There are the three witches, and there is Hecate, who is the queen of the witches. We've had Hecate mentioned before, but we haven't actually seen her. This is the first time we see her on stage. So Hecate meets the three witches. The first witch says, "Why, how now, Hecate, you look angrily," which basically means, "Hello, Hecate, you look angry." So immediately Hecate is framed as sort of powerful and angry. Hecate enters the scene and she scolds the three witches, who are sometimes referred to as the Weird Sisters, for meddling with Macbeth. Maybe she scolds them because the Weird Sisters didn't ask her as queen for permission to meddle with Macbeth, and she's angry about that. Or maybe Hecate scolds the Weird Sisters because their meddling seems to have benefited Macbeth instead of leading him to his downfall. The three sisters gave him prophecies that came true. They said, "Thou art Thane of Glamis, thou art Thane of Cawdor, and thou shalt be king hereafter." And all three of those prophecies came true. So actually they helped Macbeth become king of Scotland. And maybe Hecate is angry with the witches for helping a human. Whatever Hecate's reason is for being angry, she decides that the solution for this is to meddle with Macbeth even more. But she really shows her evil nature by insisting that she will only give him false prophecies. So where the three witches gave Macbeth three prophecies that came true, Hecate is purposely going to give Macbeth three prophecies that he believes are true. However, they have some kind of flaw, or they have some kind of trickery or deceit that will lead to Macbeth's downfall, his tragic ending. They all agree to meet Macbeth tomorrow, and then Hecate leaves the scene, and the first witch says, "Come, let's make haste, she'll soon be back again," which again shows that these three witches, these weird sisters, sort of fear Hecate as their leader, as the queen of the witches. And that is the action that happens in Act 3, Scene 5. So the key characters here are Hecate. We've heard her mentioned before in previous scenes, but this is the first time we see her. She is the queen of the witches, and she comes across as evil, jealous and powerful. So whereas the three witches are evil and powerful, Hecate is even more evil. She is even more powerful, so she would be seen as a real threat. The audience would have been probably shocked and probably terrified of her presence on stage. The other main characters are the three witches, of which only the first witch speaks. And when we first met them in Act 1, Scene 1, the three witches were very powerful and confident. They arrived in thunder and lightning, they cast their spells, they gave their prophecies. But it turns out they are not all that powerful. Hecate is even more powerful and tells them off. Hecate chastises the three witches, and they become quite meek, and they seem a bit less powerful, a bit more shy in this scene, which goes to show just how evil and just how powerful Hecate is as a character. So what themes do we encounter in this scene? Well, of course we have the supernatural. Hecate represents the supernatural, so does the three witches. We also get this theme of power. The three witches, as I mentioned, are powerful. They're able to influence Macbeth and therefore influence Scotland, and their influence has led to King Duncan being murdered and Banquo being murdered. However, their power pales in comparison to Hecate. She is even more powerful, even more angry, even more evil. And that links with that third theme of being evil. Whereas the three witches meddled in Macbeth's life, their prophecies were at least true prophecies. Thane of Glamis, Thane of Cawdor, king hereafter, they all became true. Whereas Hecate promises to only use false prophecies, prophecies that will confuse Macbeth prophecies he thinks are true but actually are not true, and that will lead to his downfall. That's a very evil, plotting, premeditated action that Hecate is going to take against Macbeth for no real reason. She doesn't justify why she's going to mess with Macbeth in such a negative way, and that is evil. So what key contextual knowledge do you need for this scene? Well, Shakespeare may not have written this scene, which is strange to find it in Macbeth, which is written by William Shakespeare, but Shakespearean experts believe that this scene may be written by another English playwright at the time called Thomas Middleton. I don't know how they know it. Maybe they found, some notes, or maybe the handwriting was different, or maybe in Shakespeare's copy it was missing, but then in Thomas Middleton's copy it had this extra scene in. I don't know enough of the historical evidence behind that. If you do know, maybe you want to share it in the comment section. But what I do know is you still need to study this scene, whether or not Shakespeare wrote it or Thomas Middleton wrote it. You need to know about Hecate. You need to know what goes on in this scene. So some key quotes from this scene you may want to commit to memory. How did you dare to trade and traffic with Macbeth? So Hecate says this as she enters the scene, which basically means, how dare you interfere with Macbeth? This is her using a question, an interrogative, to chastise, to tell off the three witches. This really establishes her power in the scene. Hecate then says that I shall draw him onto his confusion. This is evidence that she's not only going to give prophecies, she's going to give false prophecies that will confuse Macbeth and lead to his downfall. So that quote really portrays her as an evil character. Finally, we have the quote, security is mortal's chiefest enemy. And this is Hecate revealing her tactics of how she's going to bring Macbeth down to his tragic ending. Macbeth is quite a secure character. In this quote, security means sort of self-confidence and self-belief. So she's going to make Macbeth have so much security, so much self-belief that he thinks he's immortal, he's undefeatable, he is untouchable. And because of this arrogance, because of this overinflated confidence, that is going to be Macbeth's chiefest enemy, his biggest enemy, and that's what's going to lead to his downfall. Now, we know from previous videos a Greek word that could summarize this, and that would be hubris, having excessive pride, having too much confidence that it actually becomes a weakness and leads to your downfall. So this quote also links to the idea that Macbeth's hubris is that he is too arrogant, he's overconfident, and his confidence derives from these false prophecies that the three witches are going to give him in the upcoming scenes. The other thing to know is that when the three witches speak and when Hecate speaks, their meter, the rhythm of speech is different. It's in trochaic tetrameter. A trochee is a pair, so two syllables, where the first one is stressed and the second one is unstressed, and tetrameter means there's four of them. So you basically get four stressed and unstressed syllables in a line. And this isn't a normal way of speaking at all. It's quite a musical way of speaking. And that creates a rhythm or a sound that is definitely supernatural. It's not natural. And to make it very clear, the writer, whether that's Shakespeare or Middleton, has ended off most of the lines with rhyme, in particular rhyming couplet. So again, this sort of rhythmic, musical rhythm of speech, plus the very clear rhymes at the end of each line, signal to the audience that these are not mortal creatures, these are not natural creatures, they are sort of immortal, supernatural characters in the scene. So, what can you do to solidify your knowledge of Act 3, Scene 5 of Macbeth? Well, you can make notes from this video on a physical copy of the play. Maybe you want to highlight those rhyming words, those quotes. Maybe you want to answer the following question. What is Hecate's role in Macbeth? It's a very open question. I would try to write maybe one or two, if you want to, analytical paragraphs about Hecate's role. Maybe her role is to bring about Macbeth's downfall through his hubris. Maybe Hecate's role is to prove that there is a stronger power that influences the three witches. Maybe Hecate's role is to symbolize supernatural evil. Maybe Hecate's role is, and you can fill in the blank As long as you're providing evidence and analysing and explaining what you think Hecate's role is in Macbeth, you'll be answering the question correctly. So I hope you found this video useful. Please give it a like if you did. Please consider subscribing to my channel so you get all my Shakespearean and analytical videos. And please feel free to leave a comment if you think there's anything I've missed. I'll be particularly interested if anyone can tell me why Shakespearean historians think Thomas Middleton wrote it and not William Shakespeare. Well, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you on the next one.